sat down. Someone brought me a cup of wine, but I did not drink from it. Does a corpse drink the wine offerings meant to quiet his restless soul? I had no taste for wine, no more than if I were dead and the clay had stopped my mouth. At last the soldiers returned and led me away again. Where would they take me? I knew not. I was no longer one of the Lord Sennacherib's royal sons. I was a stranger here now, and his heir and successor hated me. Perhaps they took me to my death. It hardly seemed to matter. But it was not death which awaited me. Instead, I found myself in the palace gardens, where I could hear the sound of the swift-flowing Tigris, mother of rivers, where I had so often seen my father, grown old, resting upon a stone bench as he fed breadcrumbs to his birds. The soldiers departed without speaking. I was alone. It did not oppress me. I had spent many days alone, in an iron cage in the dungeons of my brother's palace. What weighed upon my heart were the memories stirred within me by the sight of this place. My father, the king, struck down by an assassin as he knelt to pray before the Lord Ashur. We had avenged that, my brother Esarhaddon and I, and then we had turned one against the other, or at least he had turned against me. And only because my father loved me and would have had me succeed him as king, even in defiance of the god's will. Yet I would not put myself up against the god and my brother both. I made my submission to Esarhaddon. Let him have the glory of a king's crown, I thought. And for this he could not forgive me. For this, and for other things. It was the month of Nisan, when winter begins slowly to die and the world is reborn. Still, it was a bleak world. The flower petals had long since been swept away, but snow still hid in the shadow of the wall. There was no moon, no stars overhead, only the dull black of a cold, cloudy night sky. One needed only to look about to believe that the world had stopped forever. Perhaps it had. I would not have been surprised, or even sorry. I sat down on the bench, merely because I had grown weary of standing. I cannot claim that I was waiting for anything, or expecting anything. I did not think of the future, not even to the next quarter of an hour. The future had been annihilated for me. The past, however, would not allow itself to be pushed aside. It kept rising before my mind's eye, unbidden, of its own will, or perhaps because I seemed to belong to it so completely. My father, sitting on this very stone, old and defeated, knowing that all his hopes for me had come to nothing. How he had hated Esarhaddon, and for no sin of his own. Old men make mischief when their hearts are dark. And love. Esarhaddon, my brother's wife, I could see her face, the tears in her eyes, and hear her voice. "Have you not made my heart a widow?" "I would be king for your sake," I had told her once, while we still knew hope. "For your sake and to change the world." And she had answered, "Would you, my love? But the world will not allow itself to be changed." And other voices. "You will be great in the land of Ashur," my mother had told me, since the first days of my youth. "Do not think that happiness and glory await you here, Prince, for the god reserves you to another way." The counsel of one wiser than my mother. Words that filled my mind and made it ache like a wound in cold weather. I had seen so much, heard so much, and I had been made blind and deaf. But perhaps not so blind at last. Gradually, as happens sometimes with a memory that forces its way into the center of one's brain, I became aware that I no longer had the garden entirely to myself. I shared it with another visitor, someone as out of place there as I had become myself.